Alright everybody, welcome to the Actors Academy, where today we're going to be talking about how to act realistically. So I made a video about this yesterday, but the video ended up being way longer than I wanted it to be, and I want this to be a video that it's easy for you guys to, one, understand, but also you guys don't have to sit through 20 minutes of it. Some videos require that. This one isn't necessarily one of them. So when it comes to talking about acting realistically, so I did a video on this before. But this one that I'm doing, it's a little bit different because these are going to be the points that no one really tells you. These are going to be the points that no one mentions, but you need to know them. So in a way, they're kind of like the secret tips. I like to think of them as. So the first one is, can we act realistically? We have to, first, stop acting unrealistically. We have to stop doing things that are unrealistic so we can be realistic. So what do I mean by that? When we're acting, most of the time, if not all the time, when it comes to new actors, they're doing something that is unrealistic, something that is not normal. You see it a lot in new actors, sometimes even actors who are experienced and they've done acting for a long time. They may even naturally sometimes, accidentally fall back into these habits. But what it is it's an actor who does things that are very unrealistic when the cameras are rolling or when they're on stage and they're performing for a bunch of different people. You'll see this a lot, this first example, in stage work, where there will be an actor, they have their scene partner, and they'll be here, and then they'll be talking, they'll be doing their scene, and then they're leaning forward, and then they're back, and then they're leaning forward when they talk, and then they go back. It's this back and forth movement, so they can say, hey, how are you doing today? Oh, really, that's awesome. Oh, that's so cool. And then they're listening, and then they're back here. And then they lean forward when they have to speak again, and they go, oh, really? Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I went over there to the place like 2 weeks ago or something like that, and then they're back. It's this constant movement of back and forth and back and forth. And naturally, in our everyday real life, we don't do that. Naturally, we're here, we're back, and we talk and we interact with people. But when it comes to acting, for whatever reason, we do things that are a little bit unrealistic. Another thing that we do, the second thing, is we have all these gestures that are mirrored. So when I'm talking, I'll be here. Oh, okay, I'm talking. My hands are going together. They're mirroring each other. It's not this one does something or this one does something. It's they're both doing something. It's mirroring, and it looks very awkward when it's on stage or when it's in film. But in film, we're lucky where the camera can kind of cut you out a little bit, so we can't see what your hands are doing if they're doing the same thing over and over. Whereas on stage, we definitely can see that. Even though you can't see it, say, necessarily on camera, you still don't want it to be a habit, because it can still be something where a director's like, hey, don't do that, because there will be moments when they want long shots, when they're farther away from you, when they want your whole body in, or they want half your body in, and they see all this happening, they're like, it's way too much. You gotta stop that. You gotta relax your hands. So avoid doing gestures that mirror each other, because it looks weird. It doesn't look natural. Sometimes you can. Sometimes it's perfectly fine, but for the most part, what you want to do, you want to try and avoid doing that same gestures that mirror each other. The last one on here, and sorry, I wrote this down, so let me double check. The last thing is that you don't want to do is you don't want to have your voice be at one note, the same thing over and over. It stays at one tone, and then you say, hey, what are you doing today? Hey, I was over here, and then I went to this thing, and it was really cool, and I saw a dog, and there was a cat, and hey, what are you doing over there? Do you see how my voice just stays the same and it doesn't really travel or have waves or movements or levels? And you see this a lot, this is something else you see a lot too, and if you get the opportunity to work behind the camera ever and you just get to observe actors acting, when it comes to new actors especially, you'll see a lot of that happening. They'll just stay at this tone and then they don't change their tone at all, and then they have their line. And that's it. You want to have waves and levels when you're talking, so you can go, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. So your lines don't just go, hey, it's just staying at this one note. Because then if you do that, then it becomes very unrealistic, and it's something that we find to not be real. So if you want to be real, stop doing things that are unrealistic, and just really sit down and think, when you're acting, what are some things that you do that are very unrealistic, that you don't naturally do in your everyday life? Because in your everyday life, when you're acting, it's normal. But then when you go up and you're acting in front of the camera, you're acting on stage, all of a sudden you're very different. Now it's true on stage you have to be bigger, but that doesn't mean you have to be unrealistic. It just means, hey, when you're on stage, you're a little bit bigger. When you're on camera, you're a little bit smaller. There's certain things where a camera will get really close to your face and your eyeball on the screen will be this big. So if you make a big movement of your eyeball, it might be too big for the camera. But say if I'm looking right now at the camera and I just slightly look over to the left and then back, slightly over, and back. Maybe for you guys it'll be to the right, but back and forth. Now, this movement is very small when you see it here. But now, if I had a camera and it was right at my eyeball, this small movement all of a sudden will be huge jumps. So there are differences, there are ways to play, but that doesn't mean to be unrealistic. That doesn't mean I'm here and doing a weird thing or crazy look with my eye while I'm looking. It's still being realistic, but it's just knowing what you can and can't do. Now, this doesn't mean that your acting is going to be completely amazing, but it will be more realistic if you can get rid of what's unrealistic. Too many actors think, okay, what can I do to be more realistic? Well, first start thinking, what am I doing that's unrealistic, and get rid of that. Once you start getting rid of those, then you can start focusing on finding out, okay, what can I do to be more realistic? Now, there's more points than this than I mentioned, but these are 3 common ones that many actors run into. Now, if you're someone who you run into these traps, stop it. Be an actor who sits down and thinks, okay, I want to be realistic. When I'm acting, I'm doing some things that are not realistic. What are they? It might be in your voice, it might be in your movements, it might be in your gaze, it could be anything. Find out what it is and then work towards getting rid of those. Once you get rid of those, then you can start working on other things. But first find out, hey, what am I doing that is unrealistic? I'll give you 2 more points here really quickly. The second point is to know what you're saying, know your lines. So my Juilliard instructor really taught this to me, saying, hey, when you're working, you got to know what you're saying. Know what you're saying, know what it is that you're saying when you're speaking. When you have your text, when you have your lines, know what it is you're saying. When you're telling someone, hey, I love you, are you saying I love you because you do love them? Are you saying you love them but you're angry with them? Are you saying you love them and they're like your partner? Are you saying you love them and they're a family member? What is it? What's going on? Are you saying you love them after they betrayed you? You have to know what you're saying and why you're saying it. So that goes through the text and really understanding every single line, why you're saying what you're saying. The third little tip here is to go and watch other great actors. Stop watching actors who aren't good. You know, a lot of actors will do this. They're going there, have choices when they're at home. They're like, okay, I want to watch a movie. I can watch either bad acting or good acting. What is it going to be? And they don't consciously think about it like that, but that's pretty much what it is. Bad acting or good acting. I want you to make the choice to be an actor who watches good acting. Don't watch actors who are bad. So make that conscious choice. Watch actors that are good, and that'll make your acting so much better because you really start to learn and see what they're doing, and you'll be able to incorporate it into your work. It's just like a musician. A musician doesn't listen to bad artists, they listen to good artists, so they have something to aspire to, what they want to get good at, and they can, take little things here or there that work for them. Alright, these are the points for you guys. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you can be up to date with everything. Give this video a thumbs up if it helped you. And then if you guys want me to take a look at your work, I've talked about it before in the last video. I posted how we can do that. We can go back and forth, finding out how you guys can send me your information, and I'll be able to give you guys notes and see how you guys are doing with your work. The email will be theactorsacademyla@gmail.com. If you want more information, go to the community section on my YouTube page here. That'll give you guys all the details. All right, see you guys. Bye-bye.